All right, welcome to the show. We got some fun stuff to talk about. If you like making money, if you like winning, this one's going to be for you. So welcome to the show, Dr. Susie. How are you today?
I am fabulous. Thank you. And I love that you started with money because I always say math is money and money is fun. Nobody likes to do the math, but everybody likes what money can do for you. And so I love that we're talking about this today because it can be fun. Business can be fun. Being an author can be fun, right? It just has to be strategic. It doesn't have to be hard.
I love that you said that. And one of the things that I've personally worked on over the years is like changing the way I think about money.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of start here. Like, have you always had a great relationship with money, or can you walk me through kind of your background that got you to the place you are today with how you view money, how you attract money, and how you just make money fun?
I would love to share that story. No, I was never good with money. So what happened was I found myself as a single mom with two little girls, no child support, no alimony. I picked a good one. I didn't know. My dad said you get married and get a job. I did both. I'm like, I win. They're like, oh, okay, no. So first mistake, right, is not knowing how to do that, not knowing how to pick a partner. And so as a single mom, I'm like, how do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay for daycare? How do I just didn't know. And so it wasn't out of, this prosperity thinking. It was out of necessity, which is most of us, right? Most of us are going, how do I pay this? How do I do this? And so it came from a place of desperation, which is never good, but it taught me how the value of money. And then I was really good at accumulating money and spending it, Jake. Let me be honest. I'm almost like, I got money, right? And I realized that I was good at generating money. I was good at creating it because math is creative. Money is creative. And I'm very creative. I started out as a hairdresser. I was making $30,000 a year, broken. And within less than a year, once I shifted my mindset and shifted my strategy, I went from $30,000 a year to $100,000 a year to $250,000 a year to opening one of the top salons and spas in the country, doing $1 million a year with 5 people. The average salon and spa has to have 30 to 60 people to do $1 million. And this was in 2000. 1995, I think we opened that business, right? So, and then my client said, Susie, how are you doing this? And I'm like, well, here's what you do. So I started from a place of contribution. I didn't start from a place
Yep.
of, like, let me do this whole thing. And they're like, you know what, Susie, if you had a book, we'd buy it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a book. Now I found somebody like Jake. I didn't write the book. I had a really good team around me. I didn't know anything about it. I got Dan Pointer's book, which is kind of like your book, right? The big idea to bestsellers, right? Of the here's step by step by step. What I love about this book, I know it's all about me, but it's all about you, is it gives you step by step, right? Do this, do this, do this, do this. And so I did the same thing. I followed a book. This was my blueprint, right? Of how do I write that book. Now, the caveat came, Jake, is when I bought 2,000 books and they dropped them off in my driveway. And that was the first time, because at 2,000 books, I got them at $1.15, right? And I'm like, I got them at $1.15. I'm going to sell them for 20 bucks. I'll make a ton of money, right? When they drop those two, you don't know what 2,000 books look like until they drop them off in your driveway, right? They, right? Like,
Yep.
I
Yep.
didn't even have room in my garage. I'm like, oh my God, I got to sell these now, which then becomes the next caveat, right? Of selling books and selling what you've done. So my whole business came from my clients going, oh my God, Susie, I would buy that. Oh my gosh, can you show me how to do that? Oh my gosh. Then I had to figure out how do I sell a book? How do I build a companion course? How do I talk to people, right? One to many. That was a skill. I didn't start out to be a speaker. I use speaking as a platform to market. And so I think people get caught up in speaking as ego or she-go, and it's not. Speaking is all about getting one to many versus one to one. And so that took many years to figure out how to do, right? And that's why I created this whole ecosystem of building businesses of, let me show you how to do it from what I've done wrong, because I'm going to teach
Yep.
from my valley versus my mountaintop. Because people teach from your mountaintop and teach you what you should do, but they don't tell you what you shouldn't do. And so I do a blend, right? Of here's what you do, here's what you don't do. right? In
Yep.
my latest book, this is book number 10, because I believe books are the credibility. You do too. You've got a ton of them as well. It's a credibility piece. It's a credibility maker. This book, Power Your Profits, was published by Simon and Schuster. All my other books, I have 9 other ones, were published under my publishing house because I created a publishing house, Jake, because the publisher in that industry denied me. Now,
Hmm.
here's my naivety, right? I was like, fine, you don't want me? I will open my own publishing company, not knowing what that meant. I'm like, well, I wrote this book. I can just create a publishing house, right? So, because I wanted to be published, and we did it very similar to how the work that you do. You have to have a book, but it has to be very credible. It can't be some pamphlet. It can't be some cheesy thing. Like people go, I wrote a book, and then you get this pamphlet. That's not a book. That's a white paper, right? That, let's be real. And so for credibility, because the minute you put something like that out, the credibility goes down. And so you want to make sure that the credibility is high, the quality of work is high, because that's your reputation.
Yeah.
If somebody picks that up, or picks up my book and goes, she knows what she's talking about. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yep.
So that's incredibly important. So my wealth came from me building out of necessity and then learning how to leverage it, right? And then leveraged from, I took the money that I built in my businesses, my brick and mortar, and then started investing in real estate, starting investing in the market, started investing in insurance, starting invested in all these other avenues, right? Followed other leaders and went,
Yep.
what are you doing? How do you monetize your wealth?
Yeah.
So we've got to monetize what we do. And I think a lot of times we invest so much in our business, we forget about taking care of ourselves. No, no, no. You got to take care of yourself, right? If you're not taking care of you, now I'm seasoned. I've been doing this a long time. And so I started at 25 investing and not knowing what I was doing, but learned, right? I've raised millions for myself and clients, and I went to a class, right? I found an expert like yourself and went, how do I raise money, right? How do
Hmm.
I do this legally, right? Because we can get
Yep.
money, but there's legalities and the SEC you have to worry about, and that's Big Brother on a whole nother level. You think the IRS is Big Brother? Go work with the SEC. That's Big Brother. And because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And a lot of people that are authors are entrepreneurs. They just need the system.
Hmm.
Here's step one, here's step two. You guys, as a company, do a great job of that. And then you pass them on to somebody like me to go, now let's build a business and scale the business.
Yeah.
Let's look at how are you leaving money on the table. Let's build a companion course for your book. Let's build a mastermind for your book. Let's build a group training for your book, right? Everything I do is wrapped around Power Your Profits, right?
Hmm.
It's all the same content. It's how I'm delivering it as an expert, right? So the book is self-serve, right? My book is not in a linear process. If you suck at sales, go to my chapter on sales and I'll give you my $100,000 script. If you suck at money, go to chapter 8, math is money, money is fun, and I'll talk to you about how can you make math fun. And I give you tools, I give you resources that I use in my own business. Now, I'm not a CPA. So, right, there is a doctor in front of my name, right? It's in business. And I got that at 50, 59. So at 59, I got my doctorate. So I'm a student of the world. I'm always learning. I'm not, I'm not waiting for it to be deemed to me. I'm going to
Yeah.
go, oh, I need in my credibility bucket. Because the
Right.
credibility bucket is what gets us paid, right? The more you learn, the more you earn. And so you can't just sit stagnant and think the money's going to come. It's like, what do
Yep.
I need now, right? We're all using AI now. We're all leveraging that. But if you don't have the acumen to put into AI, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Right. People think, and I'm sure you hear this, I can write a book through AI. Yeah, but it sounds like it, right? No, you can, but it's going to be one of those cheesy ones, right? To
Yeah.
go, no, it's got to pull out of you. AI doesn't know how to pull that out of you. And if you don't know how to use it to pull it out of you, it's going to sound like everybody else. That's why all the emails that you're reading, all the blogs that you're reading, they all sound the same because it's all Chat GPT or Claude, and they don't know who you are, right? So it's
Hmm.
leveraging your expertise, right? And Benjamin Franklin said, I love this quote: "Take the coins from your purse, invest them in your mind, and your mind will fill your purse overflowing." When I
Hmm.
wrote my first book, Jake, I did, first of all, back in the day, right? So this was 1992, 93. I paid $30,000 for my ghostwriter to write the book. and you might as well set $1 million back then, right? I didn't have $30,000 laying around. I had to, budget that and do monthly payments. So when you start looking at that to where, a service like yours now, like that was 1992, I'm aging myself, right? But to go, oh, that's just what it was to what we're doing now and the cost effectiveness that we can do
Yeah.
now to build a credibility piece. A book is a sexy business card and an
Yep.
expensive business card that we all have to have if you want to be the difference. The difference between me having a book and not having a book when I first started was I got on more stages. I was hired. I had more credibility than the guy that didn't have anything, right? I think if you're in this industry, you get a little jaded about authors, but we're still the top 1%. The clients
Yeah.
that you work with are still the top 1% of their industry, but we just forget that. Now,
Yep.
the top half of 1%, right, are the people that monetize that book and not just have a book in their garage, right? And
Yep.
that's your passion, my passion is to go, let's make money with this, not have it collecting dust, right? Not
Yeah.
not a checklist, I wrote a book. No, my book now I was with Simon and Schuster. They paid me a small retainer. It was only $150,000, but that $150,000 has made me millions, right? Now 150,000 I put back into marketing, by the way. Like I wasn't paid that. I put that back into marketing, right?
Hmm.
To promote my book, but from that I've made millions from
Yeah.
that book. Not from the book itself, because of the book and how we
Yep.
leveraged it and how we monetized it.
Yeah. I love all this. I mean, there's so many ways I can take this conversation from all that amazing information you just shared.
I
I
just
want to
get
go here.
excited, Jake.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I want to go here though. You've mentioned a few times math and money can be fun. All right, now I love math, and I'm one of those weird people who just thoroughly enjoys the
I read
numbers.
that in your book. I was like, okay, you
Yeah,
are an anomaly.
yeah, like I love it. Like we could go into my backstory on it, but math was my thing early on in my life. I love numbers. I love what numbers can do, and I like how numbers can make me more money, right? But a lot of people don't have the same love for math, and they also have an aversion even to math and or numbers and money. And so I want to kind of dive deeper into what you talk about. I mean, you mentioned it in the book. I know you talk a lot about this. So what are some of your favorite numbers? What are some of your favorite math equations that you use in the sense of growing business?
Well, to be honest, I hated math. I wasn't good at math. Mr. Syverson said in seventh grade, don't do anything that has to do with math. And I'm like, look, you're putting numbers and letters in math. That makes no sense to me. I know you did algebra in fifth grade or something. I don't remember. It's like, I loved it. I'm like, no, I don't get it. So like, you don't put the alphabet in the math equation. I'm having a hard enough time with math. So I was never in love with math. I was always in love with what the financial reality could do for me, do for my children, do for my community. So I had to understand it from that standpoint. So once I figured out the formula, and the formula came into Excel, right? So I had a partner that loved Excel, and I'm like, look, here's what I need to make this simple for my clients. Now, I started in the beauty industry. So I started as a hairdresser, right? Low paid hairdresser. And I had to figure out, once I realized that X amount of haircuts meant X amount of dollars in my bank. If I took that haircut and I added on color services and treatments, that same client now will pay me 5 times over the year, 10 times over the year what that one client would do. So I started making these associations, but it was all around the client and the wealth, the client and the wealth, the client and the wealth, the client and the wealth. That was probably the biggest breakthrough. And then taking these complicated, I'm not a CPA, right? I'm not a tax strategist. I just created these formulas for my clients, spreadsheets for my clients that took this complicated data. Because when you get a P&L, you're like, okay, let me stick it in a drawer. It doesn't have a story to it. So I create stories around the numbers. If I look at someone's P&L, I know exactly what's happening, right? I can find the money you're leaving on the table. I can find where you're undercharging. I can see where you're overspending, like little tiny line items. And $100 a month is $1,200 for the year. $1,200 for a year is your retirement account. Doesn't have to take a lot for you to accumulate and to create that. And so I started creating these stories for my clients of average ticket, of looking at their break even analysis and putting
Hmm.
together a spreadsheet that showed you're not making money. I just worked with a client that she owns some Airbnbs, and they were so underpriced that one, it was hurting their market. right? So they weren't getting booked as much. And two, their break even point on every single rental, they were losing $16. Okay, now $16 doesn't seem like a lot, but first, you're not making any money. It's just this shell game of cash flow coming in, right? So I took all the data, put it in a simplified spreadsheet to show her here's how much money you're losing in all this hard work. And the money, because, it's an illusion because money's coming in and you're spending money, but if you're not managing and allocating it, you don't know what's profitable, what's not. So a couple tweaks, we turned it around, and now she went from a negative to a profit of 53% in profit by
Yeah.
playing a game. I said, we're just playing a game. We're playing a game. We looked at her pricing. I showed her what she was losing. Then we looked at her pricing and said, what if we did this? What if we had some enhancements? Like the quality of your sheets equals more revenue in the
Yep.
business, right?
Yeah.
The quality of everything. So I
Yeah.
think it's making that association and telling the story behind it versus here's a spreadsheet. Who cares?
Yeah, and I like framing that. You've mentioned telling the story, you've said making it a game, right? You're doing things that take it away from the boring, right? Which
Yeah.
is how most people think, like, oh, you just got to crunch these numbers and all of a sudden it'll tell you something. No, it's how does it play into it? What's the purpose of it? Why are we doing all of this? But I want to kind of know, and I'm going to put you kind of on the spot here related to money and everything, is something that you've done so well over your life is you've gone through various different stages from beginning making $30,000 a year to running 8-figure companies to working with clients who have made millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And when you look at math and you look at business, do you find that at some of the earlier stages or later stages, there are certain levers that you can and should pull based on where you're at? Let me give you an example here. In the beginning of business, do you feel it's more important to focus on getting more clients through the door, or more important to create those various upsells for the few clients you do have? It doesn't have to be one or the other, but for you, what have you noticed at different stages of revenue or different stages of business that people can consider for maybe some quick tips?
The first thing is pricing. You all are pricing your services wrong. You're pulling it out of your butthole. And you're pulling it out of your genius zone and going, okay, what does Jake charge? What does Susie charge? What does Bob charge? What does Bill charge? I'm going to charge this. Well, we don't know what their overhead is, right? If you don't have any team members, if you don't have an office space, it's going to be cheaper. And that's the challenge that COVID brought, is it started really bankrupting our industry because now everyone was charging less to try to get more clients. Well, I learned early on that being too cheap is costing you money, just like the Airbnb story. She was too cheap, so you would see $90 a night where the average was $249 a night. You're like, this must be a shithole, right? You're like, $90, I'm not staying there, but it's beautiful, right? And she's like,
Right.
well, I just want people to come. And no, she was only booked at 42% capacity. Now we're booking her at 70% capacity. We raised her prices, raised the value, changed the perception of that image. So pricing is number one, right?
Okay.
You've got to have a pricing formula. I have a pricing spreadsheet that takes it out of your head and out of your feelings, because feelings don't belong in business, right? It is black and white, because the minute you get feeling about what you should charge something, you're bankrupt. Right. And I was bankrupt. My hardest $1,000,000, dude, that first salon that I owned, right? Because I went from being a solopreneur to a salon owner. I made $1,000,000 and I was excited. I was just looking at the top line. Woohoo! Do you know what my net profit was? Negative $70,000. Do you know where that negative $70,000 came from? My savings, right? And then I
Yeah.
had to carry it on for a couple of years to pay that 70 grand off. And
Yep.
it was a couple different pricing points that every client that came in to do just haircuts, we lost, $20. $20 times 300 clients is a lot of money. That's $70,000. And so it was based on this, what the perception and the market value is, which is important. But if like your work is high quality work, so you're paying graphic designers more, you're paying copywriters more. Can you get it cheaper? Sure, but cheaper isn't better, right? You get what you pay for. I'm not saying don't be frugal. I'm very frugal, right? I'm very price conscious. I grew up poor. There was 9 of us in a 1,200 square foot house, right? Bobby, Ronnie, Stevie, Terry, Joni, Shelley, Susie, Kelly, Debbie. So there, I know, like that foundation of not having money has taught me to be frugal and responsible. So pricing is number 1. 2, when I look at clients, yes, we want to look at what are the services that I can bundle, that I can look at to go, if Jake's my client and my job is to serve Jake and Jake's writing a book, what can I serve him? Because he's going to need it, right? Either through a strategic partnership that I'm getting a revenue share on, right? Whether through the product and services that you're owning and making sure that each one is profitable. Because I think we build our business on lost leaders, like a book is a lost leader. You're not making millions from a book, like selling a $20 book, right? We're making millions from what we're selling from the book. So it's looking at your bundle or your product stacked to go, okay, does this make sense? Now, the first person I always hire in my business, Jake, is an operations person. Why? Because I'm busy selling. I'm busy teaching. I'm on the road. I can't manage the structure in my business if I'm doing these other things. You're hiring an assistant. I'm sorry, an assistant, you got to tell what to do. If I have to tell somebody what to do, I can't work with them, right? If I got to tell you how to do your job, one of us isn't needed, and it's definitely not me. I'm needed, right? To go hire a smart person, invest in that person that can do the minutia, right? So you can go sell and then you can throw it back there. I would sell air. I would go on the road and people would go, Susie, can I buy that? This was my pricing strategy back in the day, Jake. How much would you pay for that? They're like, we would pay $1,000. My first event that I did that, I sold $22,000. I had no product. I just said, how much would you pay for that? And then I said, how many of you would buy that? They raised their hand. I came home and my partner almost choked me, right? I'm like, but I sold 22,000. He goes, but we don't have the product. I'm like, we'll make it. Yeah. I don't advise that. I was doing it because I had to pay my mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And it caused a lot of stress, right? It's that planning before. And as much as nobody wants to hear this, you got to write a business plan, get it out of your head, put it on paper so Jake can deliver it, so I can deliver it, so your team can deliver it. Get it out of your head.
So good. So good. Gosh, there's so many more questions I have. We'll have to have another conversation here. But how do people, if they want to kind of follow along and learn more about you, get your book, get your calculators, get your sheets, work with you, like where do we go? How do we do it? And we'll make sure everything that you share gets linked down below for people to visit.
First of all, Jake, I'll come back, right? So it just doesn't have to be a one and done because there's so many topics that we can go off on. How do we leverage that book? How do you leverage stages? How do you sell from stages? Because all that is a system and a strategy. So if you love this conversation and you want to play, go to my website, susiecarder.com. So SUSIECARDER.com. Go to my social media, Susie Carder. Go to my YouTube page, Susie Carder. Ton of free education there. Mm-hmm. Do the cash calculator. The cash calculator is the first place that you come onto our website. That is one of my secret formulas that I give my clients. It tells you how many qualified leads you need in your business to create a 7-figure business, to create a 5-figure business. I don't care what it is, but you have to know between your pricing and qualified leads, how many people do we need in the door every single week, every single month, every single year to hit that revenue goal. Quit winging it. Quit pulling it out of your butt, right? Get a plan in place, hire an expert, whether it's Jake, whether it's me, to go, let me help you put that plan together. Because once you have the plan, then we work the plan. We've all heard that for years, but take the time to do it. That's the best investment that you can make. And like Benjamin Franklin said, take the coins from your purse, invest them in your mind.
Perfect. Amazing. Awesome. Well, Susie, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. And
thanks for having me.
I look forward to having you back on. I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, my brother.
All right, you guys, that was Susie Carder. Make sure to go get that calculator. Look, money can be fun. Go make some money, have some fun. And if you need something related to growing your business, call Susie. She's got you. All right, folks, we'll see you next time.